What is the Manchester Podcast Festival then?
Oh, so let me explain that.
I got confused.
Yeah,
and that's in November as well.
Yeah. So we have seemed. So basically, what happened last October? All of a sudden, I was about to go to Germany to watch the football, and I was like, "Hey, what's this? The Manchester Podcast? Why's nobody fucking asking me about it?"
Was this after you thought of Pods Up North?
No.
Oh, right? Okay, right.
So,
right.
Now I could tell this story, but I'll do it now.
We're already rolling, so
yeah. Well, just so we can come back into it and do it again, but you'll understand why. So we were like, "Who's doing this?" So we looked out, and it was like all the podcasts that were coming were not from from Manchester at all. They're all from London, and we're like, "So what are they?" I don't get it. You know, it's not like and all the people I know in podcasting in Manchester, they weren't involved either. And I was like, "Do you know anything about this?" No. Do you know anything? No, I don't. Anyway, it turns out, funnily enough, the people that organise it are the same people that organise Kendall Calling. And so they've organised it very like they would organise a festival or a thing. And so, but the problem that they've had, I think, is that they're realising that although, you know, people will pay and come and see a podcast live in the same way that people will go and see a band live, like podcasters themselves operate very differently to bands. And so they're just trying to
I always find live podcasts have got to have, it's their own audience. You like you build up your audience and then you do a live podcast.
Yeah,
it's not like you just do a live podcast and hope people show up.
So what happened was we'd been talking about maybe doing something alongside, and I assumed it would be something that would maybe run for a week, and they'd be doing live shows in different places. And so I was like, well, let's do something with it, and maybe bring up these like Richard Herring's.
Yeah, of course.
He's coming up. Brilliant. Bring that up, put that on, but maybe give one of the local podcasts the chance to warm up for them.
Yeah, just like festivals do.
Exactly. So even if it's like 2 hours before he goes on, you're still in the same room, you still act as the warm up. And they were a little bit like, don't know who you are, you're trying to steal our thunder, steal our money. And we're like, no, we just want to celebrate. Anyway, they were so about it. And then we just decided to put something on and go, rather than waiting for permission with them because they're messing about, and we just went for it. But yours
is very... Anyway, Ant McGinley, thanks for joining us. Before we get too far in.
I do think as well, that's how you should start a podcast. Just dive straight in. My friend is a...
Yeah, I always do the intro, to explain a few things myself before, so that we can just start.
Oh, no. I think you should keep this bit in now. Just jump in here.
Yeah, that's what I always do.
And then do the intro.
Yeah, well, I kind of do that. But, like a double intro, where,
a double intro.
Where people introduce the guest.
Let's go triple intro.
But, where people introduce the guest, to tell you what they're about, and then the start of the conversation is that exact same thing.
Yeah.
So whereas they didn't need to do that.
What I'll just do is I'll say something really cool now, then you clip it and you put it at the beginning.
Yeah, we could do
for
that.
Example, like I just think, I think podcasting could actually save humanity.
Wow.
Yeah.
I see what you mean. Soundbite at the beginning of the teaser.
Instantly, that people go, he's a knob. Or they go, how's that going to happen?
Subscribe.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, or delete.
I'll try that. Yeah. I'll do that for this one. I'll just put it at the beginning and see what happens. Market research.
And just leave it. You go, that little quote there. And this is how I mean, obviously, Tech, you're in charge here. But what I would do is, I would start the podcast, have a 2-second silence, so there's a gap between whatever's there. Then that quote, and then another pause to let it breathe, and then hit the music.
Boom! I'll try that. That sounds good. Sounds good. So anyway, Pods Up North.
Hello.
So what is Pods Up North?
Pods Up North is a one-day event taking place on the 23rd of November, 2019. If you're listening to this in the future, so you missed it. It was fucking amazing. So we're at the time we're recording this, we're about 5 weeks away from doing it. Basically, I've been going to America for the last 3 years to conferences and festivals about podcasting. I've been going to London to all these events, and yet these are great events. They bring people together. There's so much energy. There's so much to learn. There's so much to share. But then there's a lot of people that get neglected. And obviously, like, getting to America is expensive to be over there and do that. Getting to London is expensive, right? To be honest, even if you live outside of London, just like at Watford Gap, getting to London's expensive. And so I was like, well, why don't we just do something somewhere else and actually shine a spotlight? So the idea is it's a one-day event, and we're going to shine a spotlight on great podcasts and podcasting talent outside of London. That's it. So it's not anti-London.
It's just alternative.
Exactly. And it's just to say there's great stuff. And we are doing it in Manchester now. I'm very aware that a lot of people go, Manchester's not north, obviously.
Yeah, but it's more central.
Yeah,
it's easy to get to.
It is. So
I get that.
So it's a bit closer, and it's in a good position for people to come to in terms of transport links and things as well. So whether you're coming from Scotland, Newcastle, even Wales, it's fairly easy to get to. We're literally just doing it as one event to begin with. Our long-term aim is to do it every year, and potentially to do an orbital event as well. So
orbital. What does that mean?
Orbital, like they played at Kendall Calling this year, did you know?
Right,
no. So we would do. So in November we would do it to coincide with the Manchester Podcast Festival.
Right. Yeah.
Because podcasting could literally save humanity.
There's that quote again.
We do that in November, and then maybe in May, so sort of 6 months around the thing, we would have a smaller event or a similar event in Leeds or
I see.
Or
so like
Newcastle,
a tour it around sort of thing.
So you kind of do maybe just like an evening event rather than an all-day event.
Right. I get you. Yeah. That sounds interesting.
And in a moment, there's going to become a really sort of awkward point we've got to figure out, and this is going to be difficult for you, Tech, and also for you to work out, because we have agreed a sponsor for the event, but we're embargoed. So at the minute, I'm not allowed to say who it is. Although, because this podcast is being pre-recorded, I could say who it is now, and then it goes out. However, I might jinx it. So if I say who it is, and then for whatever reason, like the fax falls down the back of the table and it doesn't go through in time, we'll have no sponsor. Right. So then that messes up the episode. So if you're hearing this version of it now, that means I fucked up somewhere, and now we don't have the sponsor. So we're going to be announcing our sponsors over the next few weeks. I'm very excited to say that, as long as I don't fuck anything up between now and then. And this is not entirely down to me. I'm working with two amazing people, Kate Cocker and Vic Turnbull.
That's what I was going to ask you.
The three of us have kind of spearheaded this. And when we were in America in the summer, myself and Vic went out there because we're footloose and fancy free. Kate's got kids and a husband and a dog. Has she got a dog? No, Kate hasn't. Vic's got a cat. That's not important. Although the cat's name is Alan, just in case you're wondering.
Love it.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's anybody who has like a pet with a human name is all right in my book. Yeah. Right. Although
next dog I'm thinking of calling it Dave.
Yeah. But can you imagine? It's like just be really weird. Like you just see the old lady coming out at night, just going, Dave.
Yeah.
Dave.
Do you watch Gogglebox?
I do.
The Manchester family, one of their dogs is called Dave.
The Germans that live in Manchester?
The Rottweiler one, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. They've got a couple. One of them's called Dave.
That's
Dave,
brilliant.
Get off
Dave.
Anyway.
And Dave from Gogglebox is going to sponsor the...
There you
go. So I'm very excited. And I'm just thinking now, because we're doing this at the beginning of the show, and if this doesn't happen, you'll have to cut this bit out.
That's fine.
And make the rest of it really flat.
We'll work our magic. It's okay.
Our headline sponsor for the event is Spotify.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
How on earth have you managed that?
It's first of all, it's down to Vic, I think.
That is amazing.
So we met them when we were out in America. So I was speaking at Podcast Movement.
I was going to say Podcast Movement, which is arguably the world's biggest podcast event. Would you say?
I just happen to be wearing a
That's
Podcast
brilliant.
Movement t-shirt here.
I like it a lot.
There we go.
I like it.
I'm not sure what underwear I've got on if you mention any other events later. But we'll see. So I've been to Podcast Movement 3 years in a row. The first time I went out, it was just like do I want to? If I'm really going to make a go of this, I should go. And I looked at it, and it's expensive to get to America, obviously.
How much is a ticket for Podcast Movement?
It depends when you get it. So if you get it early doors, it's like can be $250. I bought it at the last minute. It would cost more than that. Yeah, and then I paid the upgrade as well to get the virtual ticket, so I could watch all the other sessions afterwards.
Right. Yeah.
It takes place over, really the main event's like 2.5 days, but then they have a warm up day.
It's like midweek, isn't it?
Yeah. So it starts on the Tuesday and runs till the Friday afternoon
in Orlando.
So it was Orlando this year, Philadelphia the year before,
yeah.
Anaheim the year before that.
Right.
So I've spent the last 3 years going to those, and the last 2 years I've been a speaker at Podcast Movement.
That must be pretty cool.
It's been very exciting. That has been very cool, and it's gone very, very well. So when we were out there, I was doing my speaking thing, I was doing my networking thing, as was Vic. I really wanted Vic to be out there to see what the event was like, to give us an idea of what we could achieve one day. Podcast Movement has been running for 6 years now. next year will be its 7th
Is
year.
that all it is?
In
Wow.
Dallas, I think it's going to be.
Dallas, yeah.
And that started as a Kickstarter. So,
yeah.
it started as a Kickstarter. Jared and Dan and a couple of other guys.
Jared Easley.
Jared Easley, yeah, who is famous more, probably as much for his dad jokes as he is for, If you've not joined the podcast movement community, I think it's the biggest podcast community on Facebook.
It must be. I'm in a few, and that's the biggest by far.
26,000.
Yeah.
And actually, Jared's been very, very good because I spoke to Jared. I know they've looked at maybe doing some meetups and things over here, and I reached out to Jared and said, look, obviously, I've been over. I've come to your event. I've spoke at your event. I just want you to know I'm doing this, and I'm not
stepping on your toes.
I don't want to step on your toes, and I just want you to
be aware of it.
I want you to be aware of it. Yeah. And he responded by going, "Oh my god, it sounds so exciting! I want to come." So at the time of recording, I know he's trying to work out with his wife.
That would be awesome
if he can come over, which would be great. So the event takes place on the 23rd of November. The list that we have of the people involved is just ridiculous.
Almost seems like you can't fit it in.
Yeah. So
one day.
So what we decided to do was we when we started this, we went, let's just do something, and we just built it from the ground. And if we'd gone about it in, so there's a lady called Janet Murray who has a really good podcast as well, and she does. She's a former journalist. She's been doing a podcast in this lifestyle now for about 5 years, where she runs online courses, teaches you how to get press and PR without having press and PR, amongst other things. And I met Janet when I was speaking at another event in America last year, and she hired me to speak at her event. And her podcast is edited by a guy that lives in Croatia, I think. Igor. Anyway, Igor had a family emergency and couldn't edit the podcast. And Janet just put out a little thing last minute kind of going, can anybody help me out? And because Janet's been very good to me, I was like, I've got time this afternoon. Just send me the files. I'll put it together for you. And it just so happened that we'd launched this and started doing it, and we're having all these problems. And that episode was about how to grow your audience, which is basically what her theme now. She's moving her audience towards this. That's what the show's going to be, how to grow your audience. And it was about how to do things like events. And I'm listening to this, and she says, like, don't start with like a big event. Just do an event for 10 people and then build it up and then go to her. And it's really sound advice, and it works brilliantly. And
it works with many things that
and
you
it's
do.
the complete opposite of what we've done. And I was listening, I was putting this together, editing, kind of going, oh God. And the thing is, like, Janet's not just some lady off the internet.
She knows what
she's doing. She's really good. Yeah. And the great thing about that is, as I say to people, podcasts are like radio, but they're different.
Yeah, this is one of the things I was gonna ask you. How do you describe a podcast if someone who doesn't know what they are asks you, what's a podcast?
A podcast is basically some noise that you make that you put on the internet for other people to listen to. That's it. That's it. The very basic. That's what it is.
I've heard so many different. It's like radio, but on demand. I've heard various different ways.
As soon as you say radio, though, that changes it, because as soon as you bring radio into it, you introduce other factors.
Yeah.
So, for example, if we were doing this interview now, you would have to stop me in a few minutes because of this traffic and travel.
Yeah, and adverts.
Or you would kind of go, God, this guy's boring. Like, let's just stop. But I can't stop now because it's half an hour till Dan turns up with his jazz show, right? So you kind of then and so it can't be naturally what it should be. Now, we've no idea how long this is going to go on. Those of you listening, watching, you may have noticed that I just jump around all over the place. It may never end.
It's quite normal on this show.
So. But the thing is, you with a radio show, you would be trying to control that. You'd be trying to control that and guide that. And my background is in radio, so I know how that works. Yeah. I mean, I've done interviews like this, where then you go and you edit it and you break it down to 3 minutes.
Yeah, I've seen that before. It's like, what's the point?
You know, and it's and people talk about now we get that with the news. But actually, we've been moving towards that for a while. We're in that kind of soundbite culture, and I think that's one of the reasons why podcasts have come back and had a success, because you've got this thing where you can talk like a real conversation. Yeah. Like look in your phone. Go back through your phone list. I don't know if you've got an app or when you go through it, and it shows you like not just when you made the phone calls, but how long each call was.
Yeah.
And no two phone calls are the same length.
No.
Because you speak to different people at
About
different
different
times
things.
about different things for different lengths.
Yeah.
And ultimately, what a podcast is people having a chat. Now, it's not just that, because I do a couple of podcasts that are completely different to that. But
for the most part.
For the most part, yeah.
A lot of them are. Well, it's opened up a lot of doors. I was going to ask you, what is it about podcasts? Why do you think it's like captivated a large portion of the world?
Because I think it's fair to say that podcasts could save humanity.
Smooth, that is smooth.
I see. We legitimately got it in. No, I think that I was thinking about this on the way up today, and I think things have changed. So it used to be that the media kind of guided us and told us who to be, right? So it gave us pop stars, it gave us celebrities, it gave us things to strive for. You know, you want to be like this person, you want this success, you want all these things. And now what's happened is we've all become content creators with the likes of YouTube and with the likes of podcasting. And so instead of being told what to be, we have the opportunity now to tell the world who we are.
Yeah.
And that's a really powerful thing. A friend of mine, Anthony Gay at Real World, he has this idea that podcasts are like therapy. Because what you do in therapy is you go and you talk.
You talk to someone the way you can't normally.
Yeah, because nobody interrupts you and you can listen. And so even though we're both here, whoever's listening to this now, whatever they say, we can't hear them. We can't interact with them. I mean, things are changing now because there are different apps like the likes of, I don't know if you've used Castbox, where they do a really great live thing on there, which is very similar to your Facebook Live, your Instagram Live, where people can call in and message as you're doing the show out the recording. And other platforms are introducing something similar. Castbox is really strong. Hi, Valentina. Yeah, so I think there is that thing of it's like it's empowering for people. Also as well, because of that change, it's not just the media. Suddenly we have this shift where voices are being heard that weren't heard before. So you're
very
moving
powerful voices.
Oh yeah,
well.
Incredibly. And the thing is, like, it's like because of people's heritage, their ethnicity, their gender, their particular circumstances, you know, they weren't given the opportunity to have their platform before.
Yeah.
Now, I met Earl from Ear Hustle in at the end of Podcast Movement this year. I have a picture of me having a hug with him, which is really cool. And for those of you that don't know that, this is a podcast that's made in a prison. And it's actually being replayed out on prison radio in the UK. And it's people, very frankly, that are prisoners talking about doing this, done as a product. And it's just real.
Just to hear that as an idea sounds intriguing.
Yeah, it's just now there is an argument. Some people, I'm sure, are going to say who've had experience of this is like, you know, why are we giving these people a voice? Because they're in prison for a reason. Personally, I think it is given somebody an opportunity to help rehabilitate for whatever reason they're in there, and it's given them an option when they come out rather than just potentially going back to what they did before.
Say, it's like it can be like a therapy, so it could help some people.
Yeah, and even that story, even just hearing of, like, you know, what they did that ended up getting them in prison. I think the thing is, though, we're moving to streaming. It's great, but the problem is to just be aware that you're introducing a different gatekeeper and a curator. Not everything's going to be there. Not everything's up on YouTube. No. Not everything's out there. Like, not everything's on iTunes.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah. Going back to what you're saying about people getting pulled off YouTube and stuff, you know what the biggest podcast in the world is?
There's a question. Joe Rogan Serial.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
They don't do live anymore.
Right.
Because they kept pulling stuff up on YouTube in the middle of the episode and getting flagged and getting taken down. So now they record it like this, then it goes straight out afterwards. Yeah. So it's almost live, but not.
Yeah.
That was just a few months ago that happened.
It's
So if the biggest podcast in the world is struggling with that.
Yeah. And you know what? That's a great example of a couple of things that we've talked about. one, deep dive in an interview. Like, I really like what he gets out of the people that's on there. If you can put the time in, you really get to understand people and what they're talking about. But also, sorry, Joe, but I always skip the first 5 minutes.
Well, just adverts, aren't they? Just commercials.
I think we
all do.
Now, there's an interesting thing on that is there's a lot of people that have come over to podcasting and gone, it's a bit like radio, so they do it the way they do radio. Yeah. So anybody that has a podcast that has advertising on it, you'll hear these terms: pre-roll, mid-roll, post-roll.
Yeah.
And that comes from
host reads.
Things. Yeah, and host reads as well. But you know what? The thing is, you're following. Host reads are different, but the pre-roll, post-roll, mid-roll are like following the same format as we've seen on TV and radio. Middle of the show, end of the show, all those ad breaks. It's like, why do we have to do it like that? One of my favourite podcasts ever. It's on a joint channel now. Look up for, if you've not heard it, Panoply. They made...
Americans call it Panoply.
They made The Message and Life After. Right, and The Message was the first one they did. And it's actually made by General Electric Theatre, I think it was. And it's the story about Orson Welles' War of the Worlds, where that went out and people like supposedly went crazy and were going to kill their children because they thought aliens were invading. That show, The Message, and yet if you just go on and look for The Message, you'll likely find 100 different like religious podcasts. But if you look for The Message / Life After, you'll find it. And the season they followed it after was about a messaging app called Life After. The Message is actually a branded podcast, but there's no adverts in it.
Right. How does that work?
There is something that is mentioned about 3 or 4 times over the 10 or 12 episodes, which is a plot device, which actually is
like product placement type thing.
It's almost like product placement. Audio product placement. But it's
interesting.
It's like
so if he was telling a story, then I went and got a Coca-Cola.
But it's not that blatant.
No.
Yeah?
But
It's more like, and then he stabbed him in the head with that Coca-Cola bottle.
A Stanley knife.
Yeah, I don't want to give the plot here, but I love that. I love that because of that. So if you listen to it and it's like, what is it? And then even at the end, they don't make a big deal. And it was about raising awareness of this medical device or this medical thing that they've got. And the actual, I think the doctor they reference in may even be a real doctor that they reference in the show.
I don't like mid-roll. I don't like breaks in the conversation. It really bugs me.
But having said that, if you look at the figures, Edison Research are just so hot on this and so good.
I look how he's got an answer for everything. It's brilliant. So brilliant.
You look at like Super Bowl, like you can pay millions to, like, is it $5 million to have an advert at the Super Bowl?
Yeah, the halftime. Yeah.
The penetration that you get, obviously you've got like 1 billion people watch that, whatever the number is. And similarly with Formula One, I think the formula they use for the formula for Formula One is they take per square inch of the size of the logo you have on the car and then multiply it by the global audience, and that's the dollar figure that you pay for that.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And that might even be per race, and then they put it up. So
wow.
Those are the 2 most expensive things that you advertise on. Formula One cars and the Super Bowl. When they've done the research on this, the recall, retention, and activation of those adverts, right? And this goes across cinema, it goes across TV, it goes across printed media and radio. You're looking at anywhere between 8% and maybe 40%. So that's in terms of people go, I remember seeing this advert. Oh, I want to check that out. I want to do something with that. Right. And some of that's down to how good the advert is, how it engages with people. Podcasts, particularly with host-read material, the same figures that Edison have done, and I'm doing this off the top of my head, and I may be slightly out here, but the difference is significant. So you're looking at around 80% when it comes to... I've made some cases I remember seeing 85% of people...
So like the effectiveness of the commercial.
And so you can have... So I'll give you an example. So Mixed Martial Arts, I mentioned that before, the podcast we do, which is about to come back. We've had a bit of a break with that. We had a sponsor for that for a little while, even though at the time the audience for that show was about 200. 200 people per episode in the first week of release. And if you went to Acast or someone like that, they were like, well, no, you've got to have 10,000 listeners. And then even when you get 10,000 listeners, like the value per listener is tiny. We sold a sponsor for that. That was we were getting about 50p per listener at one stage. And the reason for that was because everybody that listened to that show was a martial artist or a martial arts instructor or somebody that did martial arts and had an interest of it. And the sponsor was a martial arts supply shop online. And interestingly, they reckon they doubled their sales during the period they were involved with us. Now, I actually think that there was a second thing that happened there, in that because they couldn't afford to be on traditional advertising and media, they got as excited as if they were on traditional media. And so they did a lot of the social media for us, because they kept retweeting going, have you heard our advert? Have you heard the show? How do you think?
Right.
Yeah. So it built it up.
And it helped each other.
Yeah, it helped each other. So
that's cool.
Yeah, so there's a different way, and there's another example as well. I'm trying to remember who I heard talking about this, but there's a podcast in America for chameleons, and like as in the lizards, iguanas. I think they call them slightly different, and I think there's only about 10,000 registered owners of these things in America, and that podcast has 10,000 listeners. Now, you're not going to listen to it if you don't. If you don't have one. Yeah, it's very niche. And one of the things that the guy did was he started making his own cages for the lizards, because there was only a small proportion of Americans that had them. No pet shop stocked cages for them. So the cages were either too small, or you would get these big ones imported that weren't strong enough. So he started making his own cages for them and advertised them on the show. And had to stop making the podcast because he couldn't keep up with the demand of the thing. So, and that's the level of engagement that you have. Now, that's an anecdotal story, both of those.
Yeah.
But there is something about that connection.
Do you agree that the advertising should match up with the podcast?
Oh, see, now, you put it into my shoes. If you suddenly come and go and give here's a bag of money.
I get that.
Yeah,
I get that.
But
I meant from the podcast of like the view of you valuing your listeners, not want to just shove any old product in their face just because you're going to make some money from it. I mean, it
depends. Like if I think
like I hate it on TV when
but people are savvy. People are really savvy these days. People know, and that's why people skip the adverts, because that's them when they go and have a cup of tea. And I think if you just honestly get, hey, look, this show, it takes a lot for us to do this, to set it up, to get it going, and we couldn't do it without the help of these guys.
Yeah.
And so do us a favour and just go and check out just hit the link in the notes, have a look at it. It's not your thing, it's not your thing. But if you want to traditional thing, if you want to build a website while lying on a foam mattress, right? Then do this.
Yeah.
I have to say that the best one is the best advert I've ever heard. Well, there's two versions of it in comedy podcasts. So Dexter Guff is Smarter Than You. Have you heard that one?
No.
And A Very Perfect Murder.
Nope.
So A Very Perfect Murder, I think that's the right name, is by The Onion. And so basically this guy wants to create the best murder podcast ever. So creates a computer program to find a murder that will make for the best thing. And then he goes and interviews the family about what happened. And there's been this horrible murder and this girl's been killed or whatever. And the mum's been telling the story. And then the host goes, oh, can you just read this? And he goes, yeah, sure. She goes, Wix websites helps you build it.
And you've been there since day one. When was day one?
We were discussing this in the car on the way here.
17, 18 years?
Yeah, it was nearly 18 years, I think.
So like 2001.
That's what we would think, perhaps. Yeah, like 2001.
It was New Year's Eve, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was New Year's Eve. Either 2001 or 2002.
Can you remember what the first gig was?
Yeah, I think it was I think it was My Last Act of Bravado. What was their band before that called?
Elvis Jumpsuit.
No. Well, maybe it was my rather.
What?
He was playing anyway.
So like New Year 2001.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think so.
And then the next gig I think was a band called Bonobo and Anodize were playing on the week after that. I think.
That was in the days when there'd be things on like 4 or 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I was going through some old posters online and some of the stuff I've got, like, that band's not going, that band's not going, that band's still going. And you look them up and you're like, it's just crazy how many, hundreds, thousands of bands that have come through your doors. And
Well, yeah.
you are the face of the Brickyard.
Well,
You are.
sometimes.
Most of the time. I must have done 4 or 5 gigs there before I actually got to talk to you properly. And I knew you as a punter until I went with Dino More. He just was like, oh, it's him.
The guy in the door.
Yeah.
2001. That is, so who was involved at the time, apart from yourself? Is anyone else still there from then?
No.
No.
Like the venue was opened by Gary Kerr and Andy Marc, and like they opened it up and ran it for maybe 5 or 6 years, I think.
So what was your involvement at the beginning?
I was DJing and working on the bar actually, and
Right.
I think I was a licensee there at the time as well. So
Right. Because we talked about, I remember the last episode that you got quite a lot of history. You went to college together?
yes,
Oh, yeah, we did, yeah.
1998.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Man.
Yeah,
21 years ago.
yeah. Thanks, man.
Just to say that, it just sounds, that is
yeah.
incredible.
What, Cumbria College of Art and Design, as it was then.
Yeah.
And it's been through about 3, 4 name changes since. Now it's the uni
What
campus.
course did you do?
Was it just called Popular Music?
Yeah,
I can't remember.
Music course.
He wasn't paying attention now or then.
Some sort of music.
We studied in a shed, didn't we?
It was in I don't know, were they like building some of it at the time or something? So.
Yeah, it was before the whole campus
Yeah.
got
So we were in.
renovated. So we
You're like the guinea pigs.
we were in a shed
In
for
these
like 2
porta
years.
cabins. Yeah, and that's it. I seem to remember right as I left, like all that fancy new studio got built.
yeah. Yeah, a brand new recording studio and a theatre.
All that stuff that would have been
and,
really useful when you were
Digital
there.
studio.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
So what
great.
did you do after that?
What did I do?
Well, it mustn't have been long after that.
It,
Then,
no,
mustn't it have been?
it
then
was
the
maybe a
Brickyard
year
started?
and a half. I think I was just working in various bars and
Yeah.
so I did a bit of DJing and things like when I left, and then and then went to the Brickyard. I think
Where did the name the Brickyard come from?
just the
Obviously,
Just like
the walls
brainstorming.
just loads of bricks.
there is a lot of bricks in there.
Who actually came up with it, though? Do you know?
I think it was hilly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
It works.
Well,
Makes
yeah.
When you go in, it makes
Makes
sense.
sense. Yeah.
I got someone handing a CV from a construction the other day, actually, so
Oh, yeah.
it doesn't entirely work.
They thought they were going to get a
Yeah.
job as a brickie.
Yeah, somebody who mainly does bricklaying dropped the CV off, looking for full-time employment.
You're like, we're good, mate. We're all right.
We're all right. We've got enough bricks.
But when you were on last time, you were saying you didn't actually have an official job title.
Well, no, I still sort of don't.
Do
really,
either of you?
do we? I don't know.
No, I don't think we do titles.
Yeah, just
You just
whatever.
As a whole, you are the
I
Brickyard.
think it's a kind of a chameleon title. It depends on what role you you're currently.
Yeah.
Oh, that
fulfilling.
was the other thing, because whatever gig it was, I'd been at the Brickyard the night before, obviously, and I'd seen you then, and
Oh,
you were
right.
doing lights.
Yeah.
Does that still happen?
Yeah, I
sometimes?
still do the lights usually. Yeah.
I think it was Nothing But Thieves,
All right.
and obviously they have their
Right,
own
That's right.
sound, I think, or they have their
Yeah,
own
I think
stuff.
They did
Yeah.
have their
So
own
you
engineer.
would do it, because I remember going in going, "What's he doing lights for?"
Right, yeah. That's it. Yeah, I still tend to do that. Yeah.
Were they saying, well, those are one of those bands that have gone on quite
well,
quite
yeah, they've
quickly?
done, done pretty well for themselves since then.
You must have had a lot.
Stayed out of jail.
Yeah. Just about.
You must have had a lot of those over the years. Have you bands that have come through and then you've seen them just go,
Yeah, thousands of them. Yeah.
and the other one's gone the other way, they just disappear?
Totally.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Works
there's been
both
quite a
ways, I
few.
suppose.
How many people work at the Brickyard?
Well, there's just the two of us, like, full time.
Yeah,
And
And
then...
the rest of like
we've
bar
got,
staff. And
we've got bar staff and sound engineers and
how many
some
sound
security.
engineers have you got?
I think there's about kind of 3 or 4 in like rotation. So
Gareth
Gareth's
still there.
still there, yeah.
He's like, is he your main one? Do you think?
Yeah, Gareth's been like the main engineer for a few years now.
He's been there a while, as long as I can remember.
Long time.
And I've been
Yeah.
going there at least. Would you say 10 years? He's been there?
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, probably.
Because we were talking about the last time about younger bands, because he can be quite intimidating at times. Like that was my first impression, but then when you get to know him, he's fine.
Yeah, Gareth.
But he's quite he's quite particular. He knows what he wants.
He knows
But,
what he wants.
I remember telling younger bands, I can't remember who we were playing with, but they were too nervous to tell him that he couldn't hear something.
Yeah,
And
I'm still too nervous to tell him that.
I was just like, if you can't hear something, just tell him and he'll sort it out.
Yeah.
But no, but he sounds awesome though.
Well, that's it. He knows what he's doing.
And the last time you were on, I'm just made a few notes.
Yeah,
the last couple of things that we talked about was you not long had a refurb, like the new floor.
Oh yeah, that was just about when I was starting. We were putting the floor in. Yeah.
That floor's ruined. We need a new floor.
To get another one.
Yeah.
But I just remember going in after that, going, wow.
Yeah. It doesn't look quite as shiny as it did when we put it in, but
no,
it's still there. It's still working.
And silent discos was a new thing at the time.
All right, yeah, well that's still really popular, yeah.
Which I've still not been to one.
Yeah.
Do they do ones of different types of music?
Well, the ones we do, it's the same every time, basically.
If there was like a heavy metal silent disco, or even just
we do
rock,
that's
or
it. We do
whatever.
but basically we've got like 3 DJs at once.
Right.
And everyone just plays different stuff. So that's it. You might get some like metal playing while there's some ABBA playing while there's whatever else,
Yeah.
So it's really good fun. It's good fun.
One of the funniest parts on the last episode was you telling us stories of some of the silly emails that you've had from people and about how they try and ask for gigs.
That does happen a lot, yeah.
One of them was like they called it the Brick Lane.
Oh, yeah, people frequently get the name wrong. And, immediately I'm like, am I really going to take notice of you if you can't even remember what the venue's called? Or they'll put the name of another venue in.
Yeah, you can
so you can
you're
tell
just part of a, like a...
They've just copied
copy
and pasted
yeah.
it.
You do the emails sometimes as well?
I try not to.
Try and avoid them if possible.
I've been known to send the odd email.
That's probably why he's actually replied, you can't even fuck it.
Yeah, there you go. But an amusing thing actually, when you were talking, I don't know if I mentioned this last time. It might not have been it might not have been last time I was here that it happened. But just when we were mentioning like social media and stuff, there's a IndyCar race course in America called the Brickyard. So we frequently get tagged in stuff on Twitter of all these people like, yeah, great night, photos of cars and stuff, and great night at the Brickyard for the Indy, and it's like, right, cheers.
I think you were saying that there's another Brickyard down south
there
somewhere.
is, yeah, there's one down south
Sometimes
as well. So we get that. We get emails from them of people wanting to book out rooms there and stuff. And it's like, yeah, sure.
Is there many people these days, promoters in Cumbria, putting gigs on at the Brickyard, or is it just you putting touring bands on?
It's kind of...
Obviously, we mentioned last time, Raz White was the main one.
Well, that's it, but Raz is kind of paring it back a bit now.
Rockmantic will be the last one.
So... There's a few, though. Ryan's been doing a fair bit, hasn't he? Ryan Devlin,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
He started doing it, even though he himself said he was going to knock it on the head.
I thought that, yeah.
He started booking more and more stuff in with us. So he's maybe kind of taken up Raz's mantle a bit, maybe.
Yeah.
But then we've got quite a few sort of more nationwide promoters, haven't we?
Yeah,
I
think
you're sort of on the radar now, aren't you?
Yeah, I think we're working with more promoters than we ever have done before.
Yeah,
that's good.
Right now,
that's good. So you get a lot of offers for bands coming through.
I wouldn't say a lot, but it does
some.
all right.
Yeah,
some.
Because obviously the Brickyard is quite a central location. If someone's going from like Manchester to Edinburgh, it makes sense. It's the kind of case of like letting them know that's even possible. Instead of having to go, sometimes obviously they have to Newcastle as well, but go to Newcastle and sort of go around Cumbria, sort of that way. When it's just like
it happens a lot, yeah.
It's just getting you. But you do see them. I was looking recently. You see bands tours, quite big bands, and Brickyard's on quite a lot of them. So I think some bands do like to do some smaller venues as well as bigger venues. Because like if you had like an academy tour, half full, as opposed to smaller venues that are sold out or pretty full.
I think it works better for us if we're one of the smaller venues on the tour. Like when Skindred come and that, the rest of the venues they'll do on the tour are bigger than us, but they come to us and it'll be dead busy,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and this year you did your first festival.
Oh yeah.
Fisher Street.
Yes.
Did we?
Just trying to remember.
So whose brainchild was that?
I don't know. Was it like you and Seb sort of talking
Yeah.
about it? Just sort of.
Well, yeah, I suppose it was just something that, that Sebastian, who's got Open Mind and the Business Next Door Abstract and
All right.
the Black Box, we were just talking about doing something just at our end of town over the Easter weekend. So we just, we trialled it, and it was all right. It went okay. It was nice having like so much stuff on over the weekend, all local stuff, and it's given us something to think about next year, perhaps. You know,
Yeah.
So, maybe not
idea.
the same weekend. We got shafted by the weather, and like,
Well, that's one thing you can never.
it was freezing of leading up to it, and then it was.
So was it in the street?
No, just between
it
the
was
two
indoor.
venues. So there was
I
passes
see.
that like
Right,
sort
right.
of. So there was.
That was my image. Was like doing stuff in the street.
It'd be
which
nice
was-
one
I don't think
time
you
to do
could
that.
close that street off.
Well,
it's too vital, isn't it?
well,
That's the problem.
If we had enough cones, we maybe could.
Nick some police. If you put police corners down, people just respect it.
Yeah,
Oh,
totally,
let's close.
totally.
Right, I'll go the other way.
Get some high-vis jackets and some cones.
But no, I mean they're all. What was the premise? Were they all local bands then, or?
Pretty much.
Yeah, it was pretty much, wasn't it?
Yeah, local bands and DJs and like local acoustic acts, and all weekend there was like 3 days of it. It was really good. Just we might try reel it in a little bit next year and just do it on
Scale it down a little bit.
slightly small, like maybe just over 2 days, perhaps, and
Maybe.
to see what happens.
Yeah.
But, it was a decent place to start.
Yeah, it was a great idea. Fisher Street Live. Like, what else could you call it?
Yeah, totally. But yeah, it was nice. It was nice working with with other people and like sort of
I was going to say like, what? Because there's no Club Rock anymore, is there?
No, I don't think so.
So, like, I was trying to think what other. There's the
Not really
old fire
sure.
station.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been there?
No.
It's really good. It's really good. I can't remember what it holds. Probably about 150, I think.
And I think their full capacity is the same. It's pretty similar to
Oh, is it?
Brickyard,
Right,
But
okay.
I think they can like
But because
close it off.
I think
to
it's
make
good
it
to
smaller.
have options and people can like work with each other, and you could help cross promote and stuff like that, rather than just having there's only one place to go.
Yeah, well. Yeah.
For the punters, I think it's better to have choice.
Hmm.
But where else is there? There's the venue,
Yeah, that is.
but
Still
I don't
going?
know.
I don't,
Yeah, it's still
I
open,
don't really know.
but they do seem to do very select
Yeah,
shows there. And then,
doesn't
but then the next up is the Sound Centre, which is a
Yeah.
bit.
Too
Too
that's it.
big.
It's quite a jump. Yeah.
So there's like smaller venues like the Source Cafe, Warwick Bazaar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Warwick
Can't
Bazaar.
think.
There's quite a lot going on.
There's
there
always
now.
they're always putting gigs on there. I must give. Do you know Mike Roper?
Yeah.
He's a hard working man. He's always putting
Well,
bands on.
he's putting we've got a gig on for his 40th birthday.
Oh yes,
he's
he
doing
did
one of
mention
his-
that. Yeah, he invited me to that,
Just
but I'm not
outed
here.
him.
Ah.
Was it public? It was his 40th.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
it is. Yeah, it is.
He's mentioned that.
Oh, right,
He's,
okay.
Yeah, he has mentioned it. Yeah.
He's happy with people knowing that.
Right, okay.
I know him well enough to. I would put it out there anyway.
All
If he
right,
didn't want
fair
to.
enough. Go on.
So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one because he's got a bunch of local bands to cover music from now. That's what I call music 40. So they're all covering songs off that.
What year is 40?
I think I'd look at it. It's 96 or 98, something like that.
Is that like Oasis and?
There's what is there?
Can you look at that?
Yeah, yeah. Google it while we're
I
talking.
call music
Yeah.
40. 'Cause
I
what's it
reckon,
up to now? Like 900?
I realised it was.
I reckon Trouble by Shampoo is going to be on it.
No, I think
Uh-oh.
that's too late. I think,
Oh, is it?
no, it's either 96 or 98 because it's got 3 lions on it.
That'd be 96.
So it's one
So
of
that's
them.
when Euro
Well,
96
they
was on?
re-released it in 98 and in 96.
Ah,
right.
right, of course.
It's one of them.
They cashed in on it.
So I'm not sure what band's doing what songs, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah, because what is it up to now? It's quite.
Oh,
quite high.
who knows,
9,000.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
About 20 odd years ago.
Who listens to? Who's these people who still listen to them and buying them? I don't understand.
Just Mike Roper.
It's like the latest thing is it's not a CD anymore. It's not a website. It's an app. You download it as an app and you have to pay for it.
Oh, really? What?
Like specifically just for those songs that
just
are
for
on
now.
when you could just pay for Spotify and just get all the songs in
all
the
of them
world
anyway.
for a tenner.
Oh, well, fair enough.
I was struggling to. I thought
Yeah,
these things would have died by
Yeah,
now.
it's a little strange.
Well, if people are buying them, then
I mean, even in the late sort of 2009, 2010, I was like, surely they're going to disappear because CD sales are going, they're gone. So how are they going to still make money?
yeah.
But the pop industry is still pumping money into that.
There's got to be about 5 people that have got everyone since number 1, and
Oh, yeah.
they'll be keeping them going, I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
just
that
don't
full
wanna
collection
miss
might
it.
be worth a lot. You
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah.
We've all bought them at some point.
I can't remember if I have actually. Maybe.
I think I got one as a gift when I was about 8. In about I think it's 1988. There you
Oh,
go. I got
right.
on cassette tape.
Oh, nice.
There you go.
Oh,
Still
yeah.
got it somewhere.
Oh, nice.
One of those ones that didn't just decide to eat itself.
Yeah.
The tape just comes flying out there.
I like now that's what I call Easter music and stuff like that. So that they bring out seasonally as well.
Seasonal ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you find it, Tech?
Yeah.
Oh,
Only bits. The signal in here is not very
it's
good.
not good.
All right.
What's the first track? Is it's Grease. It's Grease Lightning and Summer Nights.
Yeah.
What was that?
It must have got
Must have been a
re-released for
re-release.
some reason. Yeah, there was a few things that were like re-releases on it. I think.
And you think,
stuff, but I can't remember now. But there's some. Yeah, some
it was
quite
98 it
obscure-
came out, I think.
98.
98. There you go.
Some quite obscure.
It's a good
tunes
idea
in
though.
there. Yeah, it's quite a novel idea. I thought.
Another good idea is the Fuck Cancer gig.
Yeah.
That's on
Yes.
in November
Mm-hmm.
for Mikey Lawless, which is now sold out.
Yeah.
Which is that's no surprise to me.
Yeah, it's excellent. Yeah, really excellent.
But the response to that's just been incredible.
Really has.
Mm. Yeah,
Ever
really
since-
good.
Yeah.
I mean, he came on here only about 3 weeks after his diagnosis, and
Mhm.
yeah, we got loads of response from that. Lots of people donated to his fund
Yeah.
just from him being on here, and I think because he's had such good news with it all as well,
Mm.
we're gonna have a
Ah, right.
well, we
okay.
might have if it works, if the timings work out, we'll have a recap episode with him.
Right. Okay.
Plus to talk about, I mean, obviously raise loads of money for
totally.
cancer
Yeah,
research
yeah.
as well.
It's been great, and I think they've got the guys from Macmillan involved now
Yeah.
as well. So,
Yeah.
it's gonna-
Just the actual idea of the gig's good as well.
oh, of course, yeah.
I've
Like,
never been to a gig like that
it's going to
before.
be a nostalgia night, isn't it?
So if anyone
Um,
doesn't know it, the premise is each band's doing like pop punk covers
Doing
type
like-
thing,
yeah.
or new metal.
Yeah, I think it's just like kind
New
of
metal, but-
genre, that like kind of era of music. As
So you're going to get
opposed
Limp
to specific
Bizkit,
genres.
System of a Down, Linkin Park.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Blink 182.
I think so. Yeah.
That's it'd be interesting certain bands to see them play that kind of that
Oh
song.
yeah,
You're like,
definitely. Yeah.
especially drunk.
It is. Yeah, because there's quite a few. There's about 6 bands on, I think, isn't there?
yeah.
Yeah. So.
The Sun Explodes reforming
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
a one-off.
Yeah.
That on itself
Yeah.
is a spectacle, and then to see them play that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're gonna do.
Yeah, nobody knows what anyone's going to play.
No, not yet. I don't
Obviously, they
know.
must have had to have some conversation
I
between
think
themselves.
there was a list, like a karaoke
Yeah,
list.
supposedly
wasn't
there was a
there?
list
And,
of songs that.
between the bands.
Yeah, I think so.
You have to, otherwise people
Yeah.
might play the same song, I
I
guess.
suppose. Yeah.
But people might say, well, we couldn't. There's no way we could do that, but we could do that. Sort of thing, yeah. But I think you'll probably get some surprises. You're like, really? Okay.
I hope so.
It's going to be a success either way.
Yeah,
well, it's already
it is.
sold out, so
Yeah,
that's
it
the
is.
hardest
Oh,
bit done.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like-
definitely.
It's been well advertised as well.
Yeah,
Do
definitely.
you know who did all the artwork for it?
I'm not actually sure.
really
no.
good.
I've got a feeling it might have been Megan.
Oh, really?
Megan of recent Megan.
Yeah. No, possibly. I'm not sure.
It's really
Um,
good. It's really
yeah.
the t-shirts that they done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
because I think it's like Dave from Fallen Red and his girlfriend. They've kind of been
Yeah,
the driving
Hayley.
force behind it.
Yeah.
I think.
yeah. It's
So-
very grabs your attention. It's very well done.
Yeah.
Oh, who does most of your guys' posters? Do you have the same sort of people
Got
doing
a
them?
few people, haven't we? Yeah, but there's
Because you're always needing posters.
Most of them, most of the people are like ex-students from
Yeah.
from the
Alright.
art college. We've kind of met over the years, and
Mhm.
yeah, they just like we like their work, and
Because I thought you must have a few different people because they're always so. There's no repetition in it.
No.
They're always really different.
it's nice because you can get the kind of different styles from different people.
Yeah.
People create, and so then we can tailor for the act or whatever
Yeah.
night it is. We can get a suitable kind of
'Cause you
designer
must
for it.
Constantly needing posters, though.
yeah, it's relentless.
well, quite often, yeah. That's it. I mean, often like the sort of touring acts and that'll just send their own artwork over. They'll have a specific tour poster they want or something.
I remember every
So-
time we played there, I would always say after not necessarily our gig but other gigs, so like this gig's been. Can I take this?
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Because I remember having a conversation with you. Like, people just nick them sometimes.
Yeah, totally.
It's just like-
I respect anyone that comes and asks.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of, we've had people breaking windows to get the ones on the other side. So,
It does happen a lot. Yeah.
I just like going in, just looking at all the posters. Going, that's a cool poster.
we've got boxes of old posters upstairs. that
Yeah,
we need to go
we
through
have
at some
actually,
point.
yeah,
so
yeah.
we're
Yeah,
gonna we'll have a nostalgia
Yeah,
day one day.
get them all
and just,
scanned in
yeah,
and just put them on
go
online.
Yeah.
Because you'd be able to say, like, on this day 10 years ago, such and such played, or...
I think that the problem is most of the posters don't have years
Yeah,
on.
they
They've
don't
only
have
got
the
the
year
dates.
on,
So, again, it's...
Yeah, I mean, you haven't got every gig on a database.
yeah, it's strange, but no.
Almost 20 years worth.
No,
Yeah.
not quite. But
I was going to write them down, but...
we've got most of the names down, but it's not just when they played is it's not
Yeah,
quite so certain.
like, sometimes the whole poster, the bands won't be exist anymore, so you can't, like, say, do you remember what year it was when you played?
We do have people coming in every now and then from, like, who played in bands historically, asking if I can rummage out an old poster and things like that. So
That's quite cool,
Um,
yeah. 'Cause you do keep at least one of them all, do you?
we've kept,
that's
there's
what
a
we
couple
tried
of
to do.
most of them.
Yeah,
up
we've
there.
always been trying to think what to do, really, haven't we? We've never quite come up with an idea of how to use them.
Well, instead of redecorating, just put the whole wall as
Yeah,
old posters.
it's getting out of hand now, though. So.
Yeah.
Instead of it being the Brickyard, have it the poster yard.
Yeah,
Just
totally.
the whole wall.
100%.
Lovely.